Hello and welcome to Good Evening Britain, a Force for Good's evening show coming to you live from our studios here in the heart of the great British city of Glasgow with me, your host, Alistair McConnachie. Broadcasting as always on our Facebook page, our Twitter page, our YouTube page and our TikTok. And please, on TikTok, do come in with all your points of view because we love to hear from you, Unionists and Scottish nationalists alike. And our point here is to spread the good news of the United Kingdom and the Union. And we do this once a week, every Wednesday from 7 until 8 p.m. Good to see Jason again this week. Thanks very much, Jason, for joining us on TikTok. And thanks to all the people coming in on Facebook. There's Debbie. Good evening to you, Debbie. And to Super Typist, nice to see you back. Good evening from your kitchen, you say. Hope you're cooking something up nice. Frankie, hello to you and hello to Alan Dawes and also to Stephen Beer. Thank you. Hope all is well, and I hope all's well with you too, Stephen. And good evening to Alan and to Adam and to Catherine. Good evening, Britain, says Catherine, and that's the name of our show. And good evening to Tommy. Hope you got your parcel, Tommy. And Ben, great to see Ben again. Hope you're keeping well, Ben, and also to Mario. Absolutely. Who have we got on TikTok? Crankin Deals says, for Queen and Country. And good to see Gaz's Army joined, as does Leslie and Doe Decker and user 996. Good evening to you all. And to Marie and to Mark. Maria says she's proud to be British. Good for you, Maria. And Tommy says he got his winnings from our competition last week, which of course will be coming up at the top of the hour as usual on the programme. Now, quite a bit to talk about this week. It's been a busy week, obviously, in the Houses, the House of Commons. And today was a full house for the first time in a long time. We saw all the MPs at Prime Minister's question time, and it was at least good to see the Parliament packed out, because that's what the British Parliament's meant to be about. It's not meant to be empty. It's not meant to be just like a few people hanging about. It's meant to be packed full of the community of the realm, as they say in Scotland, which is all people from all sides of the political equation and all people from all parts of the United Kingdom. That's the point of the Union Parliament, is to bring us all together, whoever we may be, from whatever point of the compass we may hail, and whatever our political point of view, we all come together in the Union Parliament and we talk and we debate and we disagree, and eventually we pass laws which are intended for the betterment of all of the United Kingdom, for all of us in the Union, in the United Kingdom. Not just for one little part of it, but for all of it. That's the ideal of the Union Parliament. That's the ideal that we hold to, that we are a unitary state. Scots, English, Northern Irish and Welsh all one together, as our banner says, all for one, one for all. And that's represented at the Union Parliament. And I want to talk about that because I've been reading people criticising Westminster for various reasons and implying from that the Union is no good. So I want to get to that in a minute. And Adam says Boris is in trouble. Well, that's part of what's going on, isn't it? I'll talk about that in a minute. Good evening to you, Stuart. And Tommy says Blackford let the whole of Scotland down. Again, that's the leader of the Scottish National Party in Westminster. Tom and Ben says, hello everyone, long live the Union, we're a Unionist, clue is in the name. And Marianne says, love our Union, we can't let Sturgeon take it off us. Now, here's what I want to just talk about just now. I was reading this article, okay, in the Times from a couple of days ago, Monday's Times, by Magnus Linklater. And I don't know where he stands one way or the other on the Union. He's certainly not like what we would call an authentic Unionist. As far as I know, he's kind of for it, but he's for it in that sort of metropolitan way that just doesn't seem to really be for it very strongly, and certainly doesn't know what we know, which is how it's held together properly. So he's, but of course he's a journalist, and he has to play all sides of the political equation, and no doubt he does that very well. But in his article here, he says he's talking about how poorly, in many ways, the Westminster appears to be coming off in the eyes of the great British public, you know, especially with the so-called scandal around the drinks event in Downing Street. And of course the media have been going overtime, because the media will never forgive Boris Johnson. The media will never forgive Brexiteers in any way, shape or form. And whether you think Boris was a genuine Brexiteer or not, the media since 2016, the British national media, mainstream media, has had it in for anybody who supported Brexit. And so the media is looking at its chance to play its role in trying to get rid of the Prime Minister. I don't know if they'll succeed or not, probably not, but they're going full guns at it, and everything else is now subsumed to this goal of making a big thing about the event in Downing Street. Anyway, they're able to basically dump a whole load of rubbish over Parliament so that it does not come out smelling very sweetly from the whole situation. And of course the media's been doing this since time immemorial, ever since there was a fourth estate, which is the name that the media is given. Ever since there was a fourth estate, they've always used their power to try to raise up or to try to bring down politicians, and very often to raise up and bring down the same politician. That's the power that the mainstream media has, and they're playing it, and they're working overtime at the minute to really lay it on thick. Anyway, for your casual observer who looks at all of this, they're going to think, oh my goodness me, the Westminster, what a pit of trouble. What a pit of sleaze and corruption and lies and so on. And the media can do that because they've got the power to create that sense. Whether even if it's true or false, they've got that power to do so. And of course, everybody who's got some kind of interest will try to play along with that as well. Anyway, point is that in the face of all of this, Linklater says here that it begs the question of what being a unionist party actually means when Westminster's reputation has been so badly scarred. In other words, and we hear this from the Scottish nationalists all the time, they'll look at Westminster and they'll say, oh, isn't that terrible what just happened yesterday, or what just happened the day before, or what happened last week. And that means that Westminster is beyond redemption, and that's why we need a Scottish Parliament that's separate. That's why we need independence. And that's an argument that they can make forevermore, because there'll always be controversies, there'll always be problems in a parliament, regardless of what parliament it happens to be. There's always going to be some kind of scandal. There's always going to be some politician that's been caught, putting his hand in the wrong pocket, in the wrong till, or what have you. There's always going to be that. So there's always going to be the ability of the Scottish nationalists to try to bring down Westminster in that way. So how do we as unionists, how do we respond to that? How do we respond to that? Well, I'm just going to tell you right now how we respond to it. And let me give him an answer when he asks the question of what being a unionist party actually means when Westminster's reputation has been so badly scarred, according to him. Let me make this point. As pro-UK and as pro-British people, we believe in the Union Parliament. We certainly want to see politicians and parties performing admirably. We want to see them performing competently. We want to see them performing properly at Westminster at the Union Parliament. Of course, we want to see that, because whatever the party or leader is, it helps to esteem the United Kingdom, not only in its own eyes, but in the eyes of the world. However, here's the critical point. Unionism, the belief, is not built upon the transient, impermanent, ever-shifting, ever-changing, good or bad performance or behaviours of particular politicians or particular parties at Westminster. It's not built on that. Indeed, if the United Kingdom had to depend for its existence upon the behaviour of particular politicians and particular parties from day to day, then the whole idea of the United Kingdom might have collapsed a long time ago. So certainly we don't have to depend for the United Kingdom's existence upon that. Rather, our unionist, pro-UK, pro-British attitude, our ideology, our philosophy is built on much more permanent things. It's built upon our permanent values of unity and solidarity. It's built upon the belief that there is such a thing as the British people, that there is such a thing as the British nation, and that we as people have a destiny to be united as a people and to work together for the good of all. And it's built upon the realization that we have more in common than what our differences may be. We have more in common than what separates us. And that it makes sense for our political institutions to reflect that fact. So the Union Parliament represents that ideal, and it's for us to constantly aim to live up to that ideal. And that's apart from whatever the particular performance or behaviours of certain politicians or certain parties may be. Okay, these are passing things. We believe in the permanent things. We believe in the British people and our potential to be united in solidarity together for the common good going forward for generations and generations to come. And I hope that answered Mr. Linklater's question there in the Times of the 17th of January 2022. Looking at some comments here on TikTok. What has England ever done for Scotland? Well, that's maybe some points. Maybe somebody out there knows. Maybe somebody on Facebook could answer this TikTok gentleman's question. What have England ever done for Scotland? Just checking the comments here, going down on TikTok. Comrade DB, hi. We're broadcasting not just on TikTok, Mard67, but also on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter. The best place to watch us is actually on YouTube. Okay. Stephen says, we've delivered one of the strongest economies in the world. I think that it's the idea, what has England ever done for Scotland? That's like saying, what has Scotland ever done for England? The point is unity. It's what have we all done for each other? And I saw a very good graphic on Twitter this week. Somebody was pointing out that back in the early 17th century, 1615, Britain was a fractious, politically disunited, a bit of a mess, really, in many ways, and certainly had no international influence. And it took the Union of 1707 before Britain actually just zoomed ahead, when the Scots and the English came together and really put their talent and their bravery together and created a wonderful new world that that showed the benefits of being together and being united. And of course, furlough is one of the things. Whether whatever you may think of the particular situation with this medical issue at the moment, furlough has certainly shown that the United Kingdom is one of the best insurance policies that any of us, wherever we are in the British Isles, have. The British Central Bank has shown the power of its ability to essentially create money out of nothing. Now, that's what it's doing, by the way, during that furlough. Where did all that money come from? They didn't borrow it. They created it out of nothing. Now, that's a risky proposition for countries to do, but a country can get away with it if its economy is powerful enough, and if everybody has enough confidence in that nation and its economy, then the central bank can just create the money out of nothing. And this is why that Rishi Sunak must not ask for that money to be paid back, because it's not owed to anybody. So it doesn't need to be paid back. It can actually just be written off over time. And that's what he has to do. He cannot be asking for all that money back, because he created it out of nothing in the first place. He did not borrow that money from anybody. And that's a kind of secret that a lot of people don't really understand, and a lot of politicians will try to hide that from you. And I know this because for 15 years I was one of, and I'm blowing my own trumpet here, but I was one of the world's foremost monetary reformers, and I produced a newsletter for 10 years called Prosperity, Freedom from Debt, Slavery, and I was pointing out the extent to which money can just be created out of nothing. It's obviously got dangers. If you create too much of it, of course you're going to get inflation. You can ruin your economy by doing it, but it can be done. It doesn't need to be borrowed from individuals necessarily, for certain key elements. But that's a whole different thing. I'll bring that into my work at a later time. But for now, you can just check out prosperityuk.com. I think that website's still up there. And I wrote a lot of stuff about this at the time. I also printed a hard copy magazine, newsletter called Prosperity. And I organised 12 international conferences on the matter, and I also spoke in Chicago twice on the power of central banks to actually create money out of nothing if they choose to do so. And that was back in the late 90s, early 2000s when I did all that work. That was before I got into the unionist field. Anyway, AR Entertainment says save Northern Ireland. I certainly am for that, and the Northern Ireland Protocol is certainly something that needs to be dealt with, isn't it? Frankie says it's amazing having Force for Good at the night time. It's better. Glad it suits you, Frankie. Tommy says great achievement. Thanks, Tommy. Super Typist says, thanks for explaining that. Yeah. Keep an eye out on these politicians, though, because they'll try to misrepresent what happened. And as Stephen says here, and this is at the heart of our message, the United Kingdom is a family. We will often fall out, but we will always be brothers and sisters. That's correct. We're a nation of families. The politicians like to talk about us being a family of nations, plural, but for us it makes more sense to reverse that and to say that we're a nation of families. And quite literally, you know, brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, in-laws, living in all parts, all four corners of the United Kingdom. That's wonderful. A nation of families. We've been publicising that, promoting that concept, because it really works. Eric Catchpole says, never give up the struggle. We must keep the union together no matter what the cost. Absolutely. And it's for the world's benefit. It's for the world's benefit that Britain is united. And please share this live if you can, folks, on Twitter and on Facebook and on TikTok. Please share, and do please give us a follow on TikTok if you can. Now, Double O Mo says, what unifies the United Kingdom is the Crown and Parliament. What's doing it harm is the nationalism, socialism and republicanism. Frankie just says, yeah, we're all related to each other in the United Kingdom. We're family and proud. Absolutely. Yes, good. So please do share this if you can. Talking about that, I'm going to share it as well to other sites. On TikTok here, who have we got? Eco1314 says, do you think Boris should resign? Well, as an organisation, we're kind of staying out of that argument because we don't want to get into the party politics of it. We tend to be more for stability, and we're not sure that there's even anybody that could take over Boris's place, even if he did resign. I mean, we want, obviously from our perspective, we would want to see a Brexiteer, we would want to see a strong unionist, we would want to see somebody who believes in Britain first economically, who wants to protect British industries, who wants to control the borders, who wants to do things like that. We're not sure that there's really anybody waiting in the wings of that calibre. Let's hope that there are some sort of people, but we can't think of any offhand. I don't know what Eco1314 believes. Do you think Boris should resign or not? Talking about resigning, there was a Tory MP resigned today. Did you know that? And what was his name? Let me bring it up. He was one of the Red Wall people who resigned. Christian Wakeford, MP for Bury South, was elected as a Conservative in 2019, one of the Red Wall people in what had been normally a Labour constituency. And today, the guy resigns and joins the Labour Party. And politics aside, but that's bad form, mate. I mean, that's bad form. People elected you as a Conservative, and you resign, and now you join the Labour Party. What kind of principles is that? What's that saying to all the people that wanted a Tory to represent them in Bury South, whatever you may think of the Tories? What's that saying to them? That's bad. I mean, how does somebody like that even get elected or get chosen to represent them? I mean, that's bad behaviour. That really is. And if you willingly cross the House like that, then there should be a by-election. You can't just get away with resigning and joining another party. Now, if you get thrown out your party and another party hoovers you up, that's a slightly different matter. But if you willingly turn your back on your constituents and join another party, that really is a by-election matter. At least I think so. I don't know what you guys think. If you've got any thoughts, please send those in. Yes, that was his name, Wakeford. That's his Twitter address. Yes, Alan says it should trigger a by-election. That's what I would have thought. As does Tommy, should be a by-election. Stephen says he should become an independent or he should resign and we have a by-election. I would never trust him in the future. Well, that's for certain. Absolutely. Absolutely. Crikey. Well, we've got our competition coming up at the bottom of the hour in a few minutes, and it's based upon this day in British history. And so it's competition time at the moment. If I'm just looking at some stuff on TikTok here. If Nicola had done the same as Boris, would you want her stacked? Would I want her sacked? No, we don't do all that. Resign, she must resign, carry on. No, I mean, if just if you're elected, you're elected, and just do your thing. Just all this constant agitation to bring down people isn't good for social stability. So to answer your question, AkeBob92, the answer is no. We don't want that. We would just stay out of that. We'd stay out of that argument. We've never, as an organisation in 10 years, called for anybody to resign, and nor would we. We leave that argument to other people. Eco1314 says, do you think Boris should be prosecuted over the Garden Party? Here's our position. Nobody should be prosecuted over any matter related to the nonsensical laws which were brought in. All these laws should be overthrown, and anybody convicted under them should get an automatic cleared their name, and the people who were responsible for bringing in these laws, they should be made to explain themselves. So that's our position on that. Stephen says the best way to get someone out is via the ballot box. Yes. We don't want to become like these countries that have got like a new leader every year and they're just in constant turmoil. That's not really the British way. It's not the British way. Anyway, where was I? Yes, competition time. Competition this week is for these sweeties. Now, what this says on it is celebrating 100 years of supporting the armed forces community. And these are produced by an organisation called Simpkins, who have been supporting the armed forces community for a while, and especially the RBL, the Royal British Legion, which was 100 last year. And that's a poppy there in the shape of a bee, Royal British Legion. Poppy. So these are sweeties in a nice little presentation tin. They'll be winging the way off to the winner of today's competition. But before we get to the competition, let's do On This Day in British History. On This Day in British History. Because British history matters. British history matters. Oh my goodness me. That's just reminded me of something else I have to say in a minute. British history matters. Now, Today on the a kind of sad day in a way. 19th of January 1915, the first civilian casualties in Britain from an air raid perished today on the night of the 19th of January 1915. 4 people were killed by bombs being thrown out of German Zeppelins, Zeppelins being these big airships. And what unfortunate people to get killed in this way. And I'll just tell you their wee story here, because it's kind of ridiculous and absurd and just a pity, really, what it happened. But I found this story. I found the article here on Zeppelins over Norfolk. Now, essentially, what happened was that 3 Zeppelins set out to bomb the Thames estuary, but they got lost in the night, and they ended up over Norfolk. Well, one of them actually went back, but they ended up completely lost over the southern east coast of England. And they threw the bombs out, and the first bomb landed in a little village called Sheringham. And thankfully, nobody died. But that's the plaque there that says, "The first bomb to be dropped on Britain in World War I fell in this yard on 19th of January 1915. And so that's the two. That's where they came in there, floating all over that peninsula there of Norfolk. And then the first people to be killed were these 2 unfortunate people. Local shoemaker Samuel Smith, 53, was killed along with 72-year-old Martha Taylor, okay? Living in or around that area there. Died from bombs that were thrown out. Now, those were in Great Yarmouth. And other bombs were thrown out, but just property was damaged. That's one of the Germans that was doing it. And then the other airship went on and dropped some bombs out over King's Lynn. And this struck me right. This poor woman here, Alice Gasley, died probably in that house, actually, in Bentinck Street, King's Lynn. I mean, how unlucky would you have to be? And her husband, Percy, had been killed 3 months earlier while serving in the Rifle Brigade in October 1914. And so she's sitting there at home mourning her dead husband, and a bloomin' German drops a bomb out that lands on her house and kills her as well. I mean, that's just messed up. That's messed up. And this wee boy here, 14, also died. Percy's mother, and he was also called Percy. Percy's mother said, "We were all upstairs in bed when I heard a buzzing noise. My husband put out the lamp and I saw a bomb drop through the skylight and strike the pillow where Percy was lying. I tried to wake him, but he was dead. Then the house fell in. I don't remember anymore." And that's where Alice Gasley is buried, along with Percy Gote, in Hardwick Road Cemetery, King's Lynn. What does that say? Alice Maud Gasley, who was killed during a raid by a German airship on King's Lynn, January the 19th, 1915. So these 4 people were the first civilian casualties of air raids in the United Kingdom. And we should really maybe know more about them and maybe remember them going forward, because that's blooming unfortunate that that happened. But it was a war. And there's one of the posters, British posters. "It is far better to face the bullets than to be killed at home by a bomb." Well, that's a bit of a Hobson's choice, but perhaps it's true. I don't know. Perhaps. Well, that's the sort of posters that they did back in those days. So, goodness sake, yeah, that's on this day in British history. The first civilians to be killed by any kind of air raid on British soil were these 4 unfortunates in King's Lynn and Great Yarmouth, of all places, and only because the German Zeppelins completely lost their way and just decided to basically bomb whatever lights that they could see down below. Such is the luck or fate in war. Okay, so the question I want to ask, and please do send in your answers to contact@aforceforgood.uk. The first person to send the correct answer to the question that I'm about to ask will get this little tin of Sweeties, which is a special commemoration tin celebrating 100 years of supporting the armed forces community. Royal British Legion. You'll get those in the post to you tomorrow. So the question is quite simply, what was the name of the German airships? What were they called? The German military airships. Okay, now I mentioned that I wanted to talk about British History Matters. Today is the last day where you can respond to the Edinburgh Council's public consultation on statues and street names. And we'll put the link up there for anybody who wants to respond to that consultation. It closes at midnight. A Force for Good has responded to it. And it's a complete joke, really. I mean, it's of very little value. Unfortunately, there's a bit of power behind it, and so the SNP misadministration of Edinburgh is heavily promoting the beshitting, essentially, of their own heritage, of Scottish heritage. We wrote a very good article about that this week called SNP Council Dump on Edinburgh History. And we pointed out that they do these kind of things. They do these kind of things because they have no regard. They have no regard for that period in Scottish history, what we call the period of achievement, which was essentially the 1800s and 1900s, when Britain really ruled the waves, as it were. They have no regard for that because it's a direct consequence of the Union of 1707, which of course they disapprove of. And so they don't want anything to do with that. And if they can bring down that history, which is essentially the what a lot of our modern world around in our big cities is built upon, then all to the good as far as they are concerned. And it was Professor Tom Gallagher who summed it, what I've just said, up much better than how I've just said it, when he said, "The SNP is nothing if not a self-referencing movement. It sees the story of Scotland's greatness beginning with its arrival on the historic stage. So it is necessary to delegitimize episodes and people from the wider consciousness, especially from the age of achievement that characterized much of the 3 centuries of Parliamentary Union." So if you want to try your hand at that public consultation, we've got the link up there on our Facebook and YouTube pages, and we'll also put it up on the Twitter page. And we'll also put up the link to the article that we wrote as well. SNP want to dump on Edinburgh's proud history. And their public consultation is very much based upon various false assumptions. The false assumption is that Edinburgh's history was quote-unquote racist. Well, of course it wasn't. But it works from that assumption. And if you work from that assumption, then you imagine that you've got something to apologise for, which of course you don't have. They also base it on an incorrect moral equivalence, where they equivalize, is that the word? They equate slavery with colonialism, which of course are two completely different things, and indeed two completely different moral things, because good moral things can occur through colonialism. But we're all agreed that slavery is bad. We're not all agreed that colonialism was bad. So again, that's a moral equivalence which is incorrect, but nevertheless they've based their consultation on that incorrect moral equivalence. So it's an awkward one to navigate. It's an awkward consultation to navigate, but it's good just to do it and to say, look, don't attack Scotland's history. I mean, they even attacked David Livingstone, for crying out loud, in this public consultation, because his memory was so powerful to the furtherance of the British Empire at the time. They don't like him for that reason, not for anything that he did, just they don't like that his memory was used to encourage people in the British Empire. What a bunch of tossers they are, basically, at the SNP Council. They really are. And it's a pity. Some of the folk here on TikTok don't have a whole lot to say other than just trying to be silly, but we'll do our best to try to find some points that are helpful. Ross Thompson 7810. The statues and street names are our history of this great nation and empire. The Scottish username says, make Scotland Christian again. Cammy Gray says, did you ever serve in the military? No, I did not, is the answer to that, Cammy. Make Britain great again, says Scottish username. Yeah, good. Okay, we'll keep sending in the messages there on TikTok, and please do give us a follow, whether you support us or not, whether you agree with us or not. Please do that. Now, somebody has just mentioned there about something that they've sent to our office. Alan, thank you for that. We look forward to that. That just reminds me, wait till I show you what was sent to our office this week as a gift for A Force for Good. And this is just amazing. Look at this, which was sent to our office. A Union Jack shield. Absolutely amazing. Now, where did that come from? Let's give a big shout out. A big shout out to Dramatic Scotland Creations on Facebook. Search for Dramatic Scotland Creations. They produce these amazing flags, and you can get all sorts of flags. If saltires are your bag as well, they do saltires, and they do any kind of flag that you want. So we are so pleased to see that there. Good. Okay, we'll be giving a shout out regularly to that organisation, because we're also doing a wee deal with them where we're going to be selling many of their flags, or at least giving away their flags on our website for a donation, and these flags will be added to our shop, can. You'll be able to make a donation and get a flag at the same time. Great deal that we're doing with Dramatic Scotland Creations. What were they called again? That looked smashing. Dramatic Scotland Creations. Search for them on Facebook and you'll quickly find them. The organisation will do anything for you, Strobo Steve. They'll do anything for you. I should imagine. I can't speak for them as far as that's concerned, but I know they do all sorts of flags. Good. Now, every week now, we're going to be doing something called Busting Indie Myths. Okay? Busting Indie Myths. And we're about to mention an indie myth. Busting Indie Myths. Okay? Last week we bust apart the indie myth that Britain is not a nation, and we were very clear that Britain is a nation. It's a great nation. It's a nation of unions built up through time, and it's a nation of families which is being created every day. Now, in today's Busting Indie Myths, we want to address the following. Yeah, so in today's Busting Indie Myths number 2, we want to address the oft-heard Scottish nationalist claim that Scotland is too wee, too poor, and too stupid to be independent. Of course, they pretend that's what Unionists say, but the only people who are actually saying that are in fact the Scottish nationalists. They're putting out a straw man argument. They're talking about nonsense and putting it upon their opponents. In some ways, they're projecting themselves onto their opponents, because none of the Unionist people have ever said such a thing, nor would anybody ever say such a thing, nor would anybody ever believe such a thing. Nobody is saying such a thing other than the Scottish National Party and its supporters. And to this foolishness, we simply point out that Scotland is big enough, and Scotland is rich enough, and Scotland is clever enough to share its wealth and to share its resources with the rest of our family throughout these islands. And you know, we don't want to hoard our wealth. If Scotland is rich, then we share it with the rest of the United Kingdom. We understand Scotland is rich enough to share its resources. It's big enough to share its resources. It's clever enough to share its wealth and resources with the rest of the United Kingdom. That's the point of being in a union. So whenever you hear a Scottish nationalist saying something like that, remind them we're big enough, we're rich enough, and we're clever enough to share our wealth and resources, and we're clever enough to stay in the UK. And on that point, you know, why are supporters of Scottish nationalism upset if money or wealth is going to the rest of the United Kingdom? You know, many of us cannot fathom that attitude. Surely it should be a matter of pride that we're helping our family throughout the rest of the United Kingdom, and that they're often able to help us as well. That's what being in a union is meant to be about. That's what it's meant to be about. Sharing and being together in order to benefit from association. And it's almost like we've called it an inferiority theme, and the SNP do promote inferiority themes like that. We're being ignored. Nobody's listening to us. Nobody wants to talk to us in Westminster. We're all alone. It's like an inferiority complex almost. And that, what I just talked about, that lie about the too wee thing, too poor thing, that comes from like a sort of inferiority sense. They should recognise that and not talk like that. Not talk like that. You have to talk big. Talk up. Talk things up, you know? If you believe in Scotland, you talk it up. Which is what we as Unionists do. Good. Well, do we have a winner for our competition? That's an interesting point. James Kelly says Unionists have got Stockholm Syndrome. What would be an answer to that? That's an interesting one. That's the fear. Yeah, that chap. He feels he is a prisoner, and he's projecting that sense of being a prisoner onto other people. So just looking at some points here. Alexander Cameron says everyone's welcome to come to the Freedom Rally in Aberdeen at Castlegate at 1 p.m. on Saturday. Now, just to be clear, that the Freedom Rally is freedom from the unnecessary restrictions which are being imposed upon Scotland at the moment, and there's several of these freedom rallies happening throughout the United Kingdom this Saturday the 22nd. They're not to be confused with the all under one banner rallies or anything like that. These are completely different. Now, talking about the all under one banner thing, they are allegedly having a kind of March of the Undead this Saturday in Glasgow, but it will be very small. There'll be nobody at it, and they might disturb 2 or 3 seagulls or something like that, but they're not really going to make much of an impact. And they're walking in an area that's basically there is nobody, like along Ingram Street, where they might pass maybe 2 or 3 ladies who lunch or something like that, and then they get to the high street, and then they're in Glasgow Green, so nobody's really going to see them anyway. So we're not going to be bothering. We're not going to be bothering with them. No, that's just not worth getting out of bed for, as we always say. So, just Alan says that Union Shield looks amazing. He does great work. Got a flag a while back. Highly recommended. He absolutely is. Dramatic Scotland creations. Nelson liked it as well. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And there was a freedom rally last Saturday in Stirling. A freedom rally. Don't get that confused with the Scottish Nationalist freedom thing. As I say, they're calling it freedom rallies, but it's all about freedom from the unnecessary restrictions that are going on. And when are they going to get done away with? Now, we do have a winner. So let me bring up the winner. And well, there you go. Guess who the winner is? Alan Dawes. Congratulations, Alan. This will be on its way to you. I was just reading out your comments, and you're the winner. So congratulations. We'll put these in the post to you tomorrow. Congratulations, Alan. Yes, yes. Now, folks, it wouldn't be a show if I did not mention the wee book, A Wee Book for the Union, which is our bestseller. If you don't have one, every household should have one. It's only a fiver. We'll put the link up there. If you are a union supporter, donating more than £10 a month, you'll get one of these free of charge anyway. But if you're not a union supporter, you might want to buy one for a fiver at our link. But we sell a lot of these. These go to a lot of opinion formers, and it makes an impact. It makes an impact because we've been seeing MPs now talking about Britain as a nation of families, and that was one of the key points that we promoted in this wee book. And of course, there's also our Do More Together 40-page magazine, and you can get both of these together for a discount at our shop, and we'll put the link up for those two, because selling these keeps us going, which means we can continue to promote our work on the internet. And so you get a good product, and in return you get our programming. So it's a 360 win, as a famous American likes to say on his show every night. A 360 win. Absolutely, absolutely. James says, the bloke who says he's a prisoner, or seems to imagine that he is, has no idea what that means. If he was a prisoner, he wouldn't be living a great life of freedom in Great Britain. That's true. That's true, isn't it? We are living a great life, although just certainly recently our freedoms have been constricted, but we believe that that the country is strong enough to get out of that and get back to what we were before a lot of unnecessary restrictions came in. But as far as the rest of the world is concerned, Britain still is a leader at that, and long may that continue, because some of the Anglosphere countries seem to be going down the pan. Oh my. But let's not concentrate on that too much. Twigman, hi, great work. AFFG, thank you. Tommy says, congratulations, Alan. And Stephen says, congratulations, Alan, as does Debbie. So congratulations to us, to you from us. And Alan says, woo, thanks. Great stuff, Alan. Great to have you on board. James says, well done, enjoy your prize. Stephen says, are you making a second edition of the Wee Red Book? Well, actually, this is the third edition, in the sense of the third print run, and it has not changed as far as words are concerned, although we did change one or two spellings of words. So this is essentially exactly the same as the very first edition. And we're not expecting that we'll be changing this really in any way. We'll be producing different material this year. We're hoping to produce a booklet on busting indie myths, all the things that we're talking about, the busting indie myth, the indie myth that we bust each week. We're going to be adding those all together and producing a book directly about that, which will really help our activists. James says, I love this wee book that I got. Quite a read when you're on the train or something like that. Absolutely, and you can read it in a couple of hours. And Christopher loves the publication. Excellent publication. We'll take that photograph, we'll put it up, and we'll use it to sell the book. Catherine says, what do I think of the seabed auction? Well, do you know what? That's the selling the seabed, or not selling it, but hiring it out to wind companies. And I don't have enough information to know whether it's a good, bad, or indifferent thing. other than it's not a good idea to rely entirely upon wind energy for our future. And the people who tell us that we should rely upon wind energy are exactly the same people who will complain when prices of energy go through the roof and when in fact the country gets plunged into darkness and coldness, and they'll blame it on the union or they'll blame it on the Tories or whatever, and the last thing they'll do is blame it on the policies that they've been promoting. The last thing they'll do is blame it on the net zero policies which they've been promoting. So that's really all I would say about that. And James says, yes, focus on the good about Britain. That's why James is a member of A Force for Good, and we thank you very much for all of that, James. And we are, Nelson, on the right side of history, and it will be proven in time, as you say. Congratulations, absolutely. And the person who foolishly spoke of the Stockholm Syndrome would be living a highly unfree and impoverished life in an Indy, Scotland, says Christopher. Tend to agree. Folks, thank you very much. Oh, Stephen says, I noticed one of my work colleagues wearing the Union heart. It was a great feeling. Haha, fantastic. This is our Union heart. And you can get that. I'm wearing one right now. You can get that from our shop. And we'll put up the link to the shop there. And these are great wee things. It's a Union heart and it says A Force for Good through the middle of it, with gold lining. Really attractive little badge. Let me put it right up there. Whoa, there you go. Can you get it? It'll focus. Might not focus at that. Good stuff. Okay, folks, we'll be back for our third Good Evening Britain next Wednesday at 7 o'clock, broadcasting across all our platforms, and we'll be back on TikTok as well. So thank you to everybody who's come in, especially to everybody on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Please share and please follow. It just remains for me to say thank you very much for watching. God bless the United Kingdom, and God save the Queen. See you next week. Okay, folks, thank you for watching on TikTok. Going to say goodbye now, and we will see you next week. Thanks for all the comments, good, bad, and otherwise. You're all very much appreciated. Bye now.